Thanks, Dennis. Hello, Brazil. Thank you for inviting me. Let's talk about design. I think this will build on a lot of the conversations we've been having this morning. Design is about optimism. Design is about pragmatism. Design is about fun. So wherever the gentleman that talked about fun, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm going to talk about a river of design, which will make sense in a second. The first thing I want to say is I'm very privileged. I get to speak on stages all over the world, but I've never got to say what I'm about to say out loud, which is, I think I have the answer. And I don't want that to sound arrogant, because I know you're all thinking to what? And lest you think I'm incredibly arrogant, I'm going to end this very quickly. I think we're standing on top of the answer. I think it's called the Amazon. And I think the Amazon is an incredible design entity. It's an incredibly designed piece of nature, and I want to talk about that. Hermann Hesse said, "The river has taught me to listen. You will learn from it. The river knows everything. One can learn everything from it." At over 11 million years old, the Amazon has pretty much seen everything. I would conjecture that the Amazon is probably the best design school in the world, and I want to talk about what we can learn from it. But what on earth must it be thinking about us all right now? I hope my Portuguese translation is coming across here. We're a bit of a mess, right? I mean, the world, it's a bit of a mess. And I'm wondering if the Amazon can help guide us out, if it can be a teacher as well as a river. We practice what's called design thinking. There's been lots of academic discussion about design thinking. Design thinking is talked about in business magazines. It is the word du jour in sort of design circles. Again, I would conjecture that design thinking is not new, that the Amazon has actually been quietly design thinking for a very, very long time. Actually, I find the Amazon incredibly inspiring. And the more I've learned as I've sort of constructed this talk, the more I realized I didn't know, and the more I now want to tell other people what I have learned. So let's talk about interdependence. That's an interesting concept. We've heard a few times today about the idea of interdependence, and I think interdependence and collaboration sort of go hand in hand. The formal definition of interdependence is kind of boring, to be really honest with you. I got this from Wikipedia. Interdependence is defined thus: a dynamic of being mutually and physically responsible to and sharing a common set of principles with others. Okay. My definition, which is slightly more sort of simplistic, is that we all need each other. And we need to hold hands and figure it out. And most importantly, I think the clock is ticking. I want to just let this play for a second. Such a beautiful piece of film. The Amazon has spent absolutely millions of years perfecting the notion of interdependence. We've heard this word several times today, this word symphony, and we've also heard the word choreography. It's a symphony, it's a choreographed ballet of overlapping worlds. 800 species of mammals, 7,500 kinds of butterfly, 25 million different insects, 24 million of which were in my bathroom this morning, by the way, because I left my window open last night. 100 different bats, 3,000 types of fish, 1,500 kinds of birds. That's incredible. So nature is an incredible systems designer. Again, we've heard this over and over again. Nature is this amazing designed entity. It's symbiotic, it's supportive, it's harmonic, and I think it's also ruthless, and I think that's also quite an interesting idea. If something doesn't work in nature, nature comes down and makes it disappear, and I think that's quite an interesting concept for us to think about here. So I wonder what we as humans can sort of bring to the table when the Earth has figured it out so incredibly well. Maybe it's time to learn. And I think of design very much as an activity of learning. It's about listening. And one of the things I'm going to talk to you about in a second is the idea of deeply listening, of saying nothing but listening. And the idea of observing, watching, not just talking, not just doing, but really, really internalizing what's going on in the world. So I would like to share with you what I'm calling some Amazonian design principles. There's 5 of them. And I'd like to share with you some ideas and some work that we've done and some work that we haven't done that I think brings some of these ideas to life. The first one, as I was just saying, is the idea of silence. Gordon, who's somewhere out in the audience, who's going to end this whole thing tomorrow, is going to talk about listening deeply out there. There you are, hi. Listening deeply out there in nature. We listen deeply out there in the world as well. I think one of the things that I find really most interesting about my life at the moment is the less I say, the more I learn. And so going out there in the world and just listening and watching is a very profound act, actually. It's a great quote here, which I love. It's a local quote from near here. Where the river is deepest, it makes less noise. It's a very nice Tirio Indian proverb. So, I want to take you to a species that we've been studying really deeply over the last year. It's a species called Brazilians. And I want to talk to you about the idea of insight. So we were asked by Havaianas, the Brazilian iconic shoe brand, to help them understand what was uniquely Brazilian about their brand that they could translate into other product categories. They particularly wanted to get into the world of bags and accessories. So we went out and we watched Brazilians. I took this picture the other day here. This was one of the guys that was bringing in the equipment that made this thing happen. You have no hat in Brazil, you make a hat. You have no shelf in Brazil, you make a shelf. So somebody asked me the other day from a Brazilian magazine, what's Brazilian creativity? And I said, everything. Brazilians make something out of nothing on a daily basis. It's incredibly inventive. We looked at how Brazilians constructed things. So I'm making juice, I have no bucket, I make my bucket. I need to hang things, I just hang things. Brazilians just do whatever is required. Brazilians carry things in a multiplicity of different ways. Everything is a bag to Brazilians, whether it's a flag, whether it's a sheet, whether it's a sweater, Brazilians will turn it into something. And of course, the incredible Brazilian relationship with color. Color here is cultural, color is identity. So we studied all these things, we didn't say anything, we just watched. This is a laundry line in Manaus the other day. This is a laundry line in an ordinary house. This is also a piece of art. It's incredible. So I didn't construct these, I just looked and watched. So we started making bags, which were sort of straps with things that you could carry that were based on Brazilian icons. We prototyped them. We made millions of these things. We designed them. Originally, what we wanted to do, which I thought would have been really interesting, was to just sell straps, to not actually sell bags, but to sell straps that were made from rubber, that was the excess of the flip-flop, so that people could carry whatever they were carrying in the world around them. Unfortunately, we didn't end up doing that, but we ended up doing a set of bags. Here they are. They're out on the market for Havaianas. They've been very successful. And there they are, made with flip-flop rubber and based on Brazilian body language. In a completely different space, I want to take you to a quite profoundly moving piece of film. We were asked by a healthcare client in Chicago to help them understand how it felt for patients who had an incredibly disfiguring skin condition. And they'd had reams of data that explained this thing on paper, but they couldn't feel it. So my colleague Nina filmed a woman with this condition. I'm warning you now, this film is a little bit scary, so bear with me.
What's happening? I squeezed my fingers and pus would come out of my nails. My nails fell. It was just terrible. And it smelled so bad. I was so embarrassed. It smelled so bad all the time. And I couldn't imagine how I got this evil, terrible thing. What did I do? Oh,
This woman, sorry, I want to go back. I'm going to just pause this for a second.
what's happening?
This woman is incredible pain. You see nothing, we ask nothing, and yet you feel everything. We've talked a lot about this idea today of coexistence, of collaboration, of coming together around solving problems. I love the idea that respectful coexistence engenders survival. It's a brilliant quote here. If you're going to live by the river, make friends with the crocodile. So again, I want to take you to another part of the world. I want to take you to rural Pakistan, where we brought together the Gates Foundation and Acumen to help create a toolkit that taught people in rural areas how to innovate. So this is my colleague Tatiana, out in the field in Pakistan, plowing a field, understanding what it felt like to be in that world. So we created the Human-Centered Design Toolkit, which is on our website. It's free. You can give it away. We are giving away the methodology. We don't care who owns the solution. I think now actually 45,000 of these have been downloaded. This has been an incredibly successful piece of work for us. So again, the whole idea of allowing people to participate, to contribute. Second, I want to take you to London. Whoops. And I want to share Jamie Oliver.
I want to tell you about something.
The TED guys are here. Jamie Oliver was awarded the TED Prize. Chef Jamie Oliver was awarded the TED Prize. And he asked us to help him bring the ideas to life. So we created Open Ideo, which is a collaboration network. Many of you have mentioned this to me since I've been here, so I think this is starting to become well known, where people can contribute. It's fun. Again, that idea is very important. People can contribute to ideas, bring themselves to the table, and nobody wants payment. People want to contribute. People are excited to participate. So this was around helping schools and food, helping school children, understand how to have a better, healthy food life. So people were contributing ideas around mobility. And in the end, in 98 days, in 166 countries, 7,334 people contributed 584 inspiring ideas, which became 198 concepts, of which 17 have now gone into production. And Jamie Oliver's thrilled to bits with these. We're now increasing this idea into things like education. We've just done some work for Sony looking at technology and environment. Hold the thought, because I'm going to suggest at the end of this presentation that this may be a vehicle for us all to collaborate on some of the things that the TEDxAmazônia guys are thinking about. Next one is the idea of scale. Small multiplied by many becomes big. Everybody wants big ideas. I think big ideas are somewhat overrated. I personally think that small ideas are very important. How could drops of water know themselves to be a river? So I want to take you next all the way to Peru, where we just finished a project for the Peruvian citizens of Peru, helping them understand how to engage in the democratic process. So the idea I want to next talk about is prototyping at scale. So this was the project. So we went out into rural communities in Peru, talked to citizens about what it was that frustrated and upset them about their government, and started developing a series of ideas for campaign promises that they could actually hold the government accountable for. And I was lucky enough a year ago to go to Bangladesh to see Muhammad Yunus and Grameen in action. So, there's lots of controversy around this, but personally I found it really engaging to see people whose lives were transformed for $7 a time. This woman here and her son were living in this dwelling here. I actually asked, do animals live in there? And they said, no, this is people. She got a loan for $7 to buy a cow. She put him through school. He just graduated with a degree in mathematics. $7. That's a very powerful thing. This is Grameen out in the rural parts of Bangladesh, in Bogra, collecting milk, creating a yogurt drink for children that they're out there selling, educating, and there's the result. Next one is the idea of building movements. The tributary leads to the ocean. We didn't do this, but I'm very interested in the idea. Again, we've heard this, I've seen several movements here today. The surfer gentleman this morning is designing a movement around helping people engage in sport in a new way and creating cultural value in doing that. Take you to Nike. I think what Nike are doing with girls, called the Girl Effect, is amazing. Taking a real social stance on teenage girls and getting them out of things like prostitution, slavery at an early age. This is the video that they've been producing. It's just background music, it's fine. It's called Girl Effect. Amazing. So for my own small part, I went to the Middle East last year. and got involved in I was at TEDx, actually, got really involved in a conversation about women in the Middle East. That's provoked a series of conversations where I'm working with some people to try and do a TEDx in Tehran around women and women's issues, which I think will be really interesting, and we're also hoping to go to Kabul and do the same thing. And I was in Australia a couple of weeks ago where I ran a workshop for the Australian government looking at food, and one of the insights that rose from this entire thing was the rise of the women as agricultural entity. These are women in Papua New Guinea who have small little homestead farms, and they're producing small amounts of product and bonding together in cooperative forms. It was fantastic to see girl power. And then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the design process itself. I think, again, nature is an incredible teaching tool for design. There's a great proverb here, life, death, life, which I really like. Some of my colleagues in Boston have been doing a really interesting project, looking at what we can learn from nature and what design can take from that. So I think most people think of design as looking something like this, something you do on a spreadsheet in Excel that has a series of boxes that you kind of walk through like this and you tick off and then you've designed something. So design is this incredibly sort of boring, linear thing. I disagree with this fundamentally. By starting to look at things like mushrooms or fish, which is what they did in Boston, or even shrimp, we were able to conjecture that design was actually this kind of organic entity, that design felt like it was an act of learning. It was about making. It was all the things we've talked about today. It was about adapting. It's about giving back. And it's about learning some more. It's just like nature. So rather than design looking like that, which is incredibly boring, I think design looks like that, which is actually the Amazon River. And that's why we're all here. So to end, I have 50 seconds, and I'll do this quickly. A few thoughts about what this river can teach us. Hopefully to look into the depths and listen. I'm looking forward to Gordon's presentation on silence. To depend on one another. To start small, but to dream big. That's one of the themes we've heard throughout the whole morning. One person. To give it time to build, to put back what we take. And ultimately, like Daisy's beloved dolphins this morning, we can interdepend. So that's what I'm asking of you all today. But one of the tendencies of these conferences is to stand up here, be very clever, and then we all leave. And I don't think that's the point of this. I think it's too critical a conversation at too critical a time for us all to just leave tomorrow on a boat and say goodbye. So I'd like to suggest a sort of closing thought, is that we decide collectively to do something. And when the guys this morning were saying that they were putting notes up at the back, I was really excited. So I'd like to see if we can help corral some of these thoughts together. So what can we do as a group here? We are perfectly happy, and if it's not us, somebody else, to host a challenge, to work with you guys to host a challenge. Should we talk about how to make deforestation tangible to everybody on the planet? Should we talk about how to create a shared vision for the Amazon basin? Should we talk about, as the theme of this conference, how do we create quality of life for all species on the planet? So I'm really excited to see what ideas you guys are having at the end there, and I'm perfectly happy to see if we can contribute to that in any way. Thank you.